Hello and welcome to another edition of Around the Ice on Fantasy in Frames. I'm Justin Taylor along with Bryan Toast Clark and Aaron Tometich. We are going to go over the Central Division preview, kind of lock down what we think out of this division, what fantasy guys we like, where we think these teams could finish. And if we got some bets we're leaning towards, stick with us here on Around the Ice. Thanks for joining me, fellas. We're back to our previews. We took a quick break last week. We had our Dynasty Home Hockey League draft, broke that one down, kind of talked about that. If you've got a draft coming up, especially a new Dynasty, and you kind of want to see where player values are, where some of these guys went, we talked about kind of our scoring, where guys went up or down compared to that. Make sure you go back, rewatch that episode, check that out. Also go back as we're doing all the division previews. We've already got two of them down. So as we're moving in, we did the East Coast, Eastern Division. Now we're doing the West side of the country, Central Division before we go all the way west next week. Fellas, thanks for joining me.
Hey, JT, Aaron, what's up, guys? We got this show for the Central Division preview this week. We'll go ahead and go out west for our Pacific Division next week. And then again, everybody get ready for the October 8th, which is technically not opening night, but it really is. There's a couple games on October 4th. Make sure to set your fantasy lineups on that for that Friday. But then we come back on a Tuesday for our quote unquote real opening night that night. And we're going to do a live cast at opening night. Pretty excited about that.
Yeah, so jump on. We'll be watching games, kind of talking hockey. We'll take questions, obviously. Any kind of bets or anything we're jumping on that night,
We'll be
we
betting.
will be on. So we'll be on that stuff. So make sure to check it out and join us. We should be on somewhere between 8 and 8:30, just kind of when the guys finish up doing the waiver wire show in front of us. But we'll talk about the early games that have been happening and then kind of jump on some of the late night games that night. Well, let's get things started here, guys, with the Central Division. So we want to thank everybody that is watching us here. Pull that up. Around the Ice Central Division preview here. Some teams we really like in this division. Who wants to start it off? What team we want to kind of kick the show off with here tonight, fellas?
I think if you don't mind, fellas, I think I'll jump right in. I'm going to kind of kick things off with arguably the biggest free agency splash team. That'd be the Nashville Predators. Barry Trotz, first year as the GM there. Nashville Predators, if you remember, and I know we we certainly benefited from this pod with our betting advice when Nashville went on that tear. What was it, Toast? Like something like 19 wins in 21 games, something, whatever crazy streak it was.
And it was something crazy like that.
Oh, it was insane. But it got them into the playoffs. They made the playoffs. Were they a playoff team? Well, no, they got bounced. But it was fun to watch. It was fun to watch them. Nashville. It's Chicago South for those of us Blackhawks fans that kind of. It's tough to get a game into the UC, go down to Nashville until they kind of put it into that. And they were getting tired of getting their barn sold out to Blackhawks fans. But ancient history now. Nashville, they got some young talent coming up. Philip Forsberg, we've given him some love in the past. I think he's probably one of those guys that just isn't talked about enough. He's an elite shooter. But really, again, what's really jumping off the page is the offseason Nashville's had. Barry Trotz came in with a plan. And love what he's done. So just kind of recap their 23-24 record. They went 47-20 and 15. Broke off a heater of 18, 19 games. They ended up with 99 points, again, making the playoffs. Key departures this season, not kind of minor. John McDonough, Tyson Barrie, a couple other guys. I'd say those are the biggest impact guys. Tyson Barrie's kind of this power play quarterback that's around the league. I know he just re-signed. He signed with the team. Name escapes me now, but The point is, he's not going to be missed. McDonough, good playoff guy, but really, again, he's getting up there in age, so really not a whole lot of departures. And then the additions. I'm just going to keep it to the big three names. Stamkos, we talked about him a lot in last week's pod when we were talking. Kind of one of those guys went ninth in our league, our ultra banger league. Scoring leagues, I'd see probably Stammer go a little bit quicker than that. Some of the cap leagues, maybe not so much because he comes with a big price tag, and anybody beyond 30, you may want to keep an eye on. Masher So is the other big name from Vegas, longtime Vegas. Won the Conn Smythe, and then Brady Shell. Brady Shell, that classic Carolina, big tough shutdown defenseman. He should pair well. Now, there's not a whole lot out there. Roman Josi, obviously, he's your perennial Norris finalist, top scorer, scores like a forward, plays shutdown defense. But when you got a guy like Brady Shell backing you up, I think that opens up Yossi's game. I know JT, you took him in our draft. Love the pick. Some guys that went before him, I kept thinking, wow, Yossi's still out there. He's still out there. He's still out there. And then, of course, you pulled him right before, right as I had him queued up. So hats off to you. It was a good pick. But I really I think what a guy like Brady Shell can do. So those of you in fantasy, I think it's when you don't have the defensive, and Yossi plays defensively too, but when you got a guy like him that's arguably top 5 shutdown guy, it just opens up your game offensively. I'd say the key questions for the team maybe going in are the new guys going to gel? I mean, you've essentially replaced your first line, at least 2 big pieces of your first line. That's really unheard of to just go out and get 2 free agents, and those are your line 1 guys. Will they gel? I think so. I mean, nothing tells us that they shouldn't. Uh, in terms of a bet, I got on DraftKings earlier today. Not a whole lot that really jumps off the page. I mean, again, you can't probably not going to recreate their 19 game heater, but one of the things that again, they were at 99 points last year. I think they'll surpass that. But right now you can find a bet. Maybe you parlay this with a couple of futures, but right now over 100 points for this team is minus 110. So it's right at that cut even point. Again, if you want to throw a couple futures together, I think this is one that's pretty safe, in my opinion, for Nashville, given the fact that St. Louis is kind of in a rolling rebuild, Chicago's full on rebuild. And again, I know we'll get into some of the other teams, but I just think where the Central's at right now, this is pretty close to a lock for playoffs. Right now, you're not getting very good odds on them making the playoffs. It's like minus 340 unless
Yeah. So yeah, there's a couple. I pulled up a couple. FanDuel's got a couple better odds than DraftKings right now. Right now they're minus 265 to make the playoffs. If you don't think they'll make the playoffs, it's plus 200. Division win. They're right now their third best odds to win the division behind Colorado and Dallas. They're currently sitting at plus 500 to win the Central. And then they're over under. FanDuel's got a little bit better number for you. 98.5 points is the over under. You can get the over at minus 106, the under surprisingly at minus 120. So a little bit more money on the under currently, which is why that number has moved down from 100 to 98.5. So like you said, Aaron, 98.5. You think that's that over? You think this team gets to 99, 100? I like that. To win the division, I like the teams at the top of the division too much. The plus 500, I don't love the odds on that one. I think this is a playoff team, but I don't like the minus 265. Like you said, unless you're going to parlay that with a couple other teams, just saying, hey, I'm going to take like 4 or 5 or 6 teams and throw them together in a parlay to make the playoffs. I just don't like laying the money at minus 265.
Yeah, I agree with you, JT. I'm going to leave it to you to come up with one of your JT home run parlays, and I'll throw in on that. But as long as you include that in the leg, I'm with you. But yeah, 100% agree with it. That's a playoff team, and they're going to do well. They're going to do some damage this year.
All right, Toast, who you got for us? What's the next up here in the Central Division?
And I'll go ahead and go with the best team in the Central Division, and that's the Colorado Avalanche. They're every year they're a top 5 fantasy hockey team. We know that. You got to think they're going to come out after last year, after a second round bounce in the playoffs, and be pretty hungry. McKinnon just had a breakout year last year. 130 some points. He was healthy for the entire season. You got to think that they're going to go ahead and build on that. They are getting some pieces back this year at some point. They're going to be a little bit deeper. So I really, really like Colorado to go ahead and win this division. We'll get into JT here in a bit on what their odds are to win the division. If it's even at plus money, then that's definitely something to go ahead and jump on. I did mine a little bit different today. Let's talk about like your best route for fantasy success with this team. And I think that is if you can get any type of combination of McKinnon and Rantanen and McCarr, that stack, if you can get any one of the three to stack together, and you're going to have to do that within the first 15 picks. So you can do the McKinnon McKinnon McCarr or the Rantanen McCarr. You're not going to get both McKinnon and Rantanen. That's not going to happen. So if you can get either one of those guys and stack McKinnon or Rantanen with McCarr, I mean, this is just a perennial, an amazing power play team from year to year. They score in droves and bunches, and that stack capability is just absolutely amazing, especially for point emphasis leagues. Some sneaky picks I want to talk about. So Artturi Lehkonen he's going to come back from injury here, hopefully by the beginning of the season. If not, he may miss the first few weeks. But if you look at his last couple of years with Colorado, he's got 51 points in 64 games and 34 points in 45 games. What's that tell you? Often injured. If the guy can actually stay healthy and stay on the ice, his deployment is absolutely amazing. It's great. Really, he's going to benefit from all the studs around him. Jonathan Drouin, another sneaky pick as well. He's going to fill in for Lehkonen. While Leikkonen's actually out here if he misses any time, another guy is going to actually benefit from deployment. They actually have him right now on line one with McKinnon and Rantanen. So if you have leagues where you can stream early, he's not going to get you any hits. He's not going to get you any blocks. He's really actually not going to go ahead and actually score the puck in the back of the neck a whole lot. Lots of assists, power play points as well in the event that you actually have those. Jonathan Drouin's definitely somebody that's a sneaky pick. Casey Middlestat's very, very similar as well. An assist guy. He's not going to hit, block, shots on goal, none of that good, but again, good deployment. So Drouin and Middlestat are pretty much like one and the same. And here's a sneaky one. Devon Toews. Because in the event that McCarr goes down, and McCarr's actually had a history of dealing with some injuries, Bowen Byram's actually gone, who's always injured. He's actually off the Buffalo. If he can stay healthy, that would actually be amazing. But if Toews actually then benefits from any type of injury in McCarr, I mean, that is definitely a guy you may want to go ahead and stash on your bench. And it's almost like in fantasy football, getting that handcuff, right? There's very few of those in fantasy hockey, but this is definitely one of them. Devon Toews would be a great handcuff for Cale Makar given a deployment. I'm going to keep going here, JT. I got a couple more things I want to mention, then we can actually talk about this in detail here. Categories deep dive. For those actually in category leagues, Ross Colton is definitely a guy that's going to go undrafted in most formats, even categories. I actually have him in a categories league. I actually drafted him in our dynasty league as well because I think he's actually under 30 years old or close to it. But he'll get you close to 475 face-off wins a year, and he always ends up hitting. I think this year he's actually projected for 150 hits as well. So a guy that can actually hit a lot, block a lot, and again, in the event there's an injury, he can slide up and actually get good deployment. And with the face-offs, really, really good. So Ross Colton kind of does a little bit of everything. Keys to this year, late-round streamers and unknowns. Gabe Landeskog, the captain of this team. It's unknown how he's actually going to come back from this injury. They say he's going to maybe miss the beginning of the season, but not too much. I would have seen maybe second, third week of the season. He's actually out there. It could be a little bit sooner, but we know what this guy can actually do. He's the captain of the team. His deployment would be amazing. He'd be a top line, top power play type of guy, actually playing with two superstars as well. And then you got Valerie Nichushkin as well. He's in the player assistance program. You have no idea why he's actually there, but he's actually not eligible until maybe March until like playoff time, right, for fantasy. So he would be another draft and stash type of guy. Um, Colorado has a great playoff fantasy schedule for weeks 22 to 24. They are a top 5 team in the league with the amount of games played, and also their off nights actually played. So you can't go wrong with this team come playoff time either. More reason to draft them. Last thing I'll say, now I'm actually just going rapid fire here, JT. Best bets, just like Edmonton, just like Toronto, just like Tampa Bay, just like all those top teams with the superstars. You do the 3-leg parlay almost every single night, especially when Colorado's at home, and especially when they're actually playing somebody who's 500 or below. Colorado on the money line, Colorado over 2.5 goals, and McKinnon with an assist. You can probably get it anywhere from plus 150 to plus 200. It's pretty much easy money, especially when the matchup's really good.
Yeah, a couple bets just here for everyone wondering. To win the division, they're the best odds at plus 210. To win the Central, to win the Cup, they're actually fourth best odds right now at plus 1100. Over under point total is 104.5. That's minus 113 on both over and under. So you're not paying a bunch of extra juice to go the over there, which I like. A couple interesting bets for people that always look for something a little bit different off the beaten path. McKinnon to lead the league in shots on goal. Right now, he's number one at plus 410 is the number for him to lead the league in shots on goal. And Cale Makar to lead the league in ice time, plus 450 right now. He's actually number one on that. If you think they can win the President's Trophy, right now they have the second best odds. They're plus 800. And obviously, everyone thinks this team's making the playoffs. They're minus 620 to make the playoffs. So you're probably better off taking them to win the division than you would be to make the playoffs if you're going to throw that in a parlay.
JT, what's that shot on goal prop? Which platform is that on?
That's all. These ones I just read off to you are on FanDuel.
Okay.
So typically, if you're going to get a few more, we use DraftKings and FanDuel quite a bit. So, but we talk to everybody. If you're looking for a little more deep dive on player props for hockey, FanDuel tends to have just a few more options out there. A lot of times DraftKings will have the top end guys. You can bet on shots, you can bet on goals, assists, those types of things. But if you're looking for something a little bit off the beaten path, or you want to adjust the numbers, maybe a guy's at 3.5 shots and you want to try to get him at 2.5, FanDuel usually gives you that option where a lot of times DraftKings, you're kind of locked into whatever number they give you.
Well, I'm going to tell you real quick, two things, and now I pass it back over to Aaron because we're going to go rapid fire here, Aaron. But the McKinnon, the league in shots on goal. A, health, if he's healthy, and B, he's probably his highest competitor will be David Pastrnak. That's my guess. Pasta shoots. I mean, he shoots so much. All right, so I love that. I think you actually mentioned that. Was that plus 210, JT?
It's actually for the shots on goal is plus 410. And actually, I just didn't write it down, but Pasta was number 2, right?
I just assumed he was. Yep.
I think he was like plus 450, maybe. I just went by it. I was trying to find it again.
That is a great play. And also, too, I think you said Colorado over 104 points at actually close to even money. Given all the guys they're going to have back if they get their captain back, and I love their goaltending with Georgiev as well. Those are great plays, man. Great plays. So and to win the division at plus 2 something.
Yep, plus 210 right now to win the division. Like I said, win the President's Trophy is plus 800 currently. If you want to look at a couple other shots on goal, guys, that are a little bit, farther down, Pasta's plus 440. I was close on that one. Austin Matthews is number 3 at plus 500. Brady Tkachuk, like Chucky, plus 800 for him. And then Jack Hughes, I think, is kind of sneaky at plus 1100 for Jack Hughes to lead the league in shots on goal.
Okay, awesome. Plenty of futures out there, plenty of props out there for Colorado, and expected they're a great team.
Love it.
Aaron, who you got next for us on the list here? Is if you guys are just joining, we are going over the Central Division. We'll break down team by team, talking about who we like fantasy wise for the season, and any kind of betting props we might possibly want to get on before the year starts.
Well, next I'm going to go with Colorado's arguably their biggest competition. I'll say the Dallas Stars. Again, we were all three of us were all over Dallas all year last year. Really, not a whole lot has changed in terms of their roster. I mean, Pavelski retired, of course, second line center, good through the regular season. A huge stud in the playoffs. That veteran presence, lost him. Chris Tanev, who was a rental but a shutdown D man. Read a stat or heard somewhere that very rarely, I think during the playoffs, even though they got bounced by Edmonton, I'm not sure that he was on the ice when a goal was scored. So it was some crazy stat. So Chris Tanev, yes, he was a rental. Was he there long term? No, but not tying him up. I think a lot they don't know if it was a cap issue, but whatever the deal, he's not there. Too bad for Dallas because I think he fit nicely in those six defensemen. Additions then, who did they add? Matt Dumba, he's a long-time Minnesota Wild. Be good on the back end. He's been solid. He can contribute offensively. He's not a liability defensively. Still has some speed in those legs. Ilya Labushkin is also I think he's on the last defensive pairing as it stands right now, and then Brendan Smith. Again, a couple guys they picked up on in free agency. So not a huge loss, not a huge gain. Obviously, nowhere near the splash the Predators made. I don't think really the biggest question for Dallas, believe it or not, which is also kind of historically has been their strong point, would just be defense. Obviously, Heiskanen, um, he's a kind of, if you watch a Dallas game or exposed to a lot of Dallas, or you're lucky enough to go to a live game, he's like that McDavid type that just kind of sets himself apart, skates faster than everybody, gets back faster, real smooth passes, defenseman first. Thomas Harley had a great year, great rookie campaign last year. Lindell, and then as I mentioned, Dumba and Lestukin, with Brendan Smith to follow to fill out the six. So if there's any question mark, it's that. Also, too, I'd probably throw it to just the overall health of Sagan. I mean, the lines that this team has as it stands right now, and again, this is just a daily face-off, kind of speculative at this point. There's some preseason games even ongoing now, but I would say with the only other question mark would just be the health of Tyler Sagan, because they've got a pretty good. Their top three lines are like a line one, a line one and a half, and a line two for most other teams. You got Robertson, Hintz, and Wyatt Johnson. Again, um, predicted to be their line one. Line two with Matt Duchesne, who's 33, 34. Sagan, again, is he healthy? Is he not? He should be. And Mason Marchment as your official line two, and then you've got Maverick Bork, Jamie Benn, and Logan Stankoven as your line three. I mean, that line three, that's a deep team, really deep. So you couple that with defense, and I think you've got a playoff team, but you've also got the fantasy team there. Talk about Maverick Bork a little bit later as potentially one of those sleeper picks, just based on he can either center line two and skate with Mason Marchment, Tyler Sagan, a healthy Tyler Sagan, or he's going to be with Stankoven and Ben. And Ben's in the corner digging out the puck. He's putting it out front, putting,
Mhm.
he's that grinder on the boards, the half boards. He's getting that puck out, and then you got the skill guy with Stankoven. So even if Bork's on line three, that might be your fantasy sleeper in terms of bets. In terms of bets, and I haven't mentioned his name yet, but he's the guy I talked to in every pod we've had. I mentioned him, but Wyatt Johnson, right now the over, and this is a DraftKings, so I'm not sure what FanDuel's got on him, but for Wyatt Johnson, over 78.5 points is a minus
Mm.
110.
Oh
So
my
again, if
God.
you're going to take that and build it, like there's so many of those bets you guys just went through with Colorado, you could pair a couple of these, sprinkle one here, sprinkle one there. But I think that's a pretty solid bet to make. I think this is the year that Wyatt Johnson even flirts with 100 points. So the 78.5 points is, if that's the kind of break even line, go ahead and pound that one. if Colorado, for whatever reason, won't win the division, this is your division winner. I think they get second, so definitely a playoff team.
Yeah,
Hey,
right now.
JT, real quick, I want to mention before you go on to that, Aaron, this team may be the deepest team in the league, right? I mean, you look at their 4 lines they roll off at you, and you actually mentioned all of them. But even look at their 4th line. Colin Blackwell is a 2-way player, kills penalties. He played with the Hawks for a bit, a veteran. He actually comes from the Rangers as well. He's been around. Sam Steele actually will get sneaky for every once in a while and start actually scoring a bunch of goals. And Evgeny Dadonov as well. I mean, Dadonov actually goes around and just he scores goals is what he actually does. He's a 4th line guy. They are loaded, man.
Yeah,
1, 2,
these
4.
are your 10-minute a game guys.
Yeah, and they are
that's
absolutely
impressive.
loaded. I agree with you on defense. It could be a little bit of an issue. They got tons of offensive talent. They actually have the shutdown guys, and they had no problem with goaltending. Man, this is a team. Set aside fantasy, man. They are built to win, just like last year, built to win it all.
Yeah, this is a team we all loved last year. That I had them. I know we talked about midway through they were a favorite, and then we took them before the playoffs. Ended up getting upset. I still think if they would have made it all the way, Wyatt Johnson as the MVP or the playoffs would have been a really nice bet we had going. Right now to win the division, it's plus 230. They're second just behind Colorado there to win the division. Making the playoffs minus 530 as you would expect. They're third right now for the President's Trophy at plus 950. And then the over-under points, which I love here, 103.5. It's minus 113. So if you want to get on them and Colorado, both at 103.5 and 104.5, pretty solid numbers right now. So who else you got coming up here on these? I was trying to find some Oettinger props and stuff. They weren't great numbers. There was a lot out there for him, but it was like you were having to pay up to get it. So I think if you're like big on him or a few of these other players, you might have to look around and see if they'll let you parlay them together. Can be very iffy on the season-long props. I will let people know that there is times where they'll let you jump in on a few different guys for season-long props, and there's other times they're like no on player personal props, but they'll let you do it for making the playoffs and other things like that. So just kind of sometimes you got to get on there and just play around with a little bit and see kind of what they will let you do and what they won't let you do. It has adjusted slightly over the years. They've gotten a lot better about letting you parlay some of those things together.
Yeah, JT, I will talk next about the Utah Hockey Club. I don't like that.
We need a name. We need a name.
Let's talk about that. So, real quick, I hated the Washington football team. That's the stupidest thing I ever heard in my entire life. And then there's the Commanders. That's fine. You know, Redskins. I love the unis and the helmet. But I think Clayton Keller actually did leak it out to the media. And he wasn't really supposed to. It's actually on X. You can find it, but I think they're being called the Yeti, man, and that's what we wanted, right?
That was my pick. I was pushing hard for the Yeti. I just saw some of the mock-up jerseys, and they did. There was a couple different mock-ups. If you haven't seen them, just go search them on X or like go to Google Images and search them up. But there was a couple mock-ups that I just thought looked awesome. They had a couple that they went with kind of like the purple look to try to kind of match the Utah Jazz, but they had some other ones with light blue and a navy blue, a little bit more similar to the Winnipeg Jets look, but I just thought they were awesome. I thought there was a really cool, like one with a big Yeti. There was another one where it was like the mountain in the background with it. There was just a lot. I was like, man, I would love those jerseys if I was like a new fan of one of those teams. I was like, those are super cool. So I wasn't as dire on the colors as per se, but I really did like the Yeti name, and I liked some of the images I saw coming out as the Yeti. So, and I like the single Yetis, not Yetis, the Yeti. I liked it a lot. So let's hope it was that one. That was my number one pick. I think the Mammoth was like number 2, and then they had another one that I thought was all right. But I was like, Yeti, I was pushing hard for last year when they were bringing that name out, and they were kind of having the votes everywhere.
Yeah, Salt Lake City's a great sports town. You know how they actually support the Jazz, and they really always show up. And I think they'll do the same here in the event that A, they're the Yeti, but B, also too, they had their first hockey team, and
I
there'll be
think
a
this
lot
is
of
going to be a nice
excitement.
spot, don't you? I know we
Yeah,
discussed it a little bit on the show last year. I was man, I feel like Utah is a nice spot. It's not
Yeah.
too far away that Arizona fans, I know they're still going to be a little bit upset. I mean, as I would be if my team
yeah.
moved as well, but they're not so far away that you can't still kind of be rooting for that team and not feel bad about it. But I just think Utah is gonna be a really nice spot. Now you got them in Colorado. You got some of those West Coast teams. I just think that to me seems like a better hockey spot than Phoenix personally, but I always have a hard time when it's 100+ degrees and we're playing ice hockey, but that's the way it works sometimes.
Yeah, and they're such a young team. So I'm gonna go ahead and just again, I'm about this rapid fire tonight. I'm gonna fire through these, man. But this is a top 15, a top 20 fantasy hockey team. And mainly that's because of their youth. They got a lot of young talent. In the event that you're actually drafting Dynasty, they become a top 10 fantasy hockey team, in my opinion, because they got so much young talent. It's really going to be exciting for this team, especially in Utah in the coming years. Last year, they had 77 points. They were seventh in the Central Division. That may end up being around where they're going to be. I can see them maybe improving a little bit, but the future's bright. Best route for success from a fantasy perspective, Clayton Keller's, you can get him around pick 50, 55 in some drafts. And that's great value for a guy who's going to dominate that team in points. Um, Overall, you'll see this team, they don't shoot the puck a ton, and they need to actually do that a little bit more. Keller actually lead them with somewhere around 230, 240 shots a year. But other than that, you don't have a single player that's maybe projected for over 200 shots on goal. They just need to shoot more, but they have a ton of young talent. But Clayton Keller, again, if you can get him around pick, I'd say 50 around there, you're stealing and he's fallen in some there in drafts as well. Sneaky picks. Dylan Gunther, I believe in our home league draft for our dynasty, Aaron, you got Gunther, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason I say he's a sneaky pick is because I'll be honest with you. He's one of those guys that fly under the radar. Just the fact that over the last 2 years, you got some household names, especially in Dynasty, and he doesn't really. People forget about him, and I do a lot of this research and a lot of listening to other podcasts and this and that, and he's a guy you can forget about. He's only 21 years old. He just got a brand new contract, 8 years. I think over $7 million. That's a new thing. 8 for 8. Well, he got 8 for 7.14 or something like that. He's projected for 55 points. You think, well, that's not a whole lot. Well, he's 21. He's 21 years old on a very young team, and he had 35 points in 45 games last year. And what I really like as a 20-year-old last year, he had he averaged 3 shots on goal a game almost. So that was super impressive from a 20-year-old as well. This guy, I think he can probably get close to the 65-point mark this year. And that's big for a 21-year-old as well. So he deserves a contract. That was pretty exciting for him. I think he's a sneaky pick. He'll go undrafted in a lot of redraft leagues. And you got to think he's going to be the number 2 guy there, right? Categories, deep dive, Nick Bugstad. I was shocked. I knew he hit a lot. All right. He's projected for 125 hits this year, but he's also projected for over 550 face-off wins as well, coming from that third line. So, this is a guy where, hey, go ahead and maybe jump on him as well. I really, really like that. Late round streamers, Matthias Maselli. He can score, man. I think I watched him last year score a hat trick. It may have been versus the Hawks. A lot of guys actually did that. But he scored a hat trick versus the Hawks, and really, really talented. 22 years old. Doesn't shoot a ton, but somehow he's actually scores the puck. So this year, I think he's projected for close to 60 points in like 80 games. From a 22-year-old, he's going to go undrafted in most leagues. He's not going to get any peripherals. But again, like I said, he has a knack for putting the puck in the back of the net. I mean, I don't did in a dynasty league. I know he actually went in our draft. But in any like redraft leagues, guarantee especially if you got 16, 17, 18 rounds, he's going to go undrafted. This is going to be a great streaming option here, man. Great streaming option. I really like him. He may not end up having the line that you actually want, maybe on the third line, but with Krause. But again, they're so young; they're going to shuffle the lineup a little bit. I really, really like them. Tell you what, fantasy playoff schedule. They have an awesome week 24. Most leagues have a week 24, their championship week. They have a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. All right. So I know you're not going to maybe draft based on that, but think about that. Remember this when you come away from this podcast. They have a great week 24 schedule, but they got a very bad week 22 and 23 again. So late streaming into playoffs. Make some notes. All right. Last thing, best bets. 87.5 points. This team was 77 points last year. With the move, I know there's going to be a bunch of hype. All right. You're going to have a good crowd. You're going to have a really good home ice advantage, I think. But 87.5, they're still so unbelievably young. I may go ahead and go the under on that at even money. I'd be very hesitant.
The same thing. I was like, that 80.5 to go 10 points better. They were second to last behind the only team they finished ahead of in the division was the Blackhawks, who were actively tanking for most of the year. And then obviously when Bedard got hurt, that hurt them. The 87.5 to jump up 10 points to me seems like a lot. This is also another interesting one. To make the playoffs is only plus 164 for them. To miss the playoffs is minus 215. If you can parlay them missing the playoffs at minus 215, I think they're missing the playoffs. I thought that number would
be JT, that's the hype of actually moving right there. That the only reason. Because again, doesn't mean this is a bad team. They're just not ready yet. O'Brien, Maselli, Cooley, McBain,
they got some nice younger players.
Connor Ingram.
Yeah, but they're just not ready to go.
Yeah, they're just not ready yet. But I do like the one big features I like, and I'll hand it back over to Aaron. Keller over 81.5 points for the season. Is it close to even money? The last two seasons had 76 and 86 points. And his underlying numbers, Corsi, expected goals, that is all actually improved, okay, over these last two seasons. He's their guy. He's their main guy. They're up and coming. I love him from over a point per game. So that's the Utah Yeti, hopefully.
We're hoping it's the Yeti, and we're hoping that they look at some of those things they got put online and take some ideas from them, and they don't butcher the uniforms. I tell you what, watching that Monday night game with the Washington Commanders and see how bad they've absolutely butchered those uniforms just makes me disgusted. I think the Yeti is a great name, and I think they have like a ton of cool things they could do with that merchandise. So let's hope they don't blow it.
Hey, JT, it's very, very they're lucky, and I say the Commanders, they're lucky they end up playing as well as they actually did. Probably their best primetime game in years. Last night.
A long time.
Yeah, I mean, for the Commanders, which is a really, really bad name, and then their uniforms are god awful.
Awful. I felt horrible for Jaden Daniels the whole time. I'm like, this guy's putting on a absolute great performance. This is going to be remembered as like one of his best games ever as a rookie. And then to go back and have to watch it and look at those uniforms, I'm like, oh.
They should have been the Yeti. Who even cares, right? I mean, the Los Angeles is the Lakers, man. It makes no difference. It should have been the Yeti.
Yeah, I'm just hoping for the day the new owners figure out that they're the last stock in the league with those uniforms. They figure out something else, but they're just brutal, man. I don't even like maroon and yellow, but man, when they were the Redskins, they had some just iconic jerseys. That's the biggest thing. There's just no reason these days for major sports teams to butcher these logos and these jerseys.
The whole damn department do that.
You have so many marketing companies and people can help. And then you just get on X. Shit, there's people putting out stuff all the time. They're great logos for free. They're like, hey, if you want any help, look at what I put together for you. I mean, they're doing half the work for you for free. You just got to open your eyes and be willing to take it in, man. But thank you. I will not go farther than that because I'm going to lose my mind on that. But let's hope it's the Yeti. Cross your fingers, and let's hope they actually do a really good job on the unis. Who's next up for us here, Aaron?
Well, we've got the Winnipeg Jets, a surprise team from last year. Went 52, 24, and 6, 110 points, made the playoffs, but absolutely got destroyed by Colorado. And it was one of those things where kind of a surprise team. They played Colorado well, but then when it counted, Colorado reminded them they're Colorado. So surprise team of last year, I would say. All in all, they did have a coaching change early on. Kind of went from that five. I'll bring this up again here when we talk about defense specifically, but it's kind of a team defense. You know, it's not because that's not what makes Hellebuck the arguably the first or second goalie or the again the annual favorite for the Vesna. That certainly doesn't hurt him either. So if they can carry over that kind of everybody goes skates back, everybody plays defense, then that can speak because they're not going to blow you out of the water. They're very, very top heavy, not a lot of depth on this team overall. So they're not going to, win 6-4. They're going to win 3-2, 2-1. They're going to be, let's get a few goals and then let's just, everybody back. That said, key departures, not a big name like in the fantasy for our little bit bigger name for us for our ultra banger league, but Brendan Dillon. I think just as you're talking about building a team, maybe somebody that's competitive not only for your division for your wild card, but a playoff. That's the kind of defenseman you're looking for. So to lose him, they're going to feel it. Really not a whole lot to speak of on any additions. They were pretty quiet in the free agency, so we're kind of. I mean, last year they signed Hellebuck, they signed Shifley, which that was kind of up in the air. So I think their big salary cap moves were last year. They're going to kind of go in as is, but again, when you're talking about overall depth, you got a great line one, and I think Kyle Connor, he's again in your scoring leagues, hovers right around that 400 point performance overall in goals, assists. Just your conventional or your rotisserie leagues, even your roto leagues. So he's a consistent scorer, kind of in that 380 to 400 range. Shifley, I didn't realize this. This will be his 13th season going
Wow.
into the NHL. When you say Mark Shifley, I still think, oh, he's an up and comer. We haven't seen his best yet. I think maybe we have. Maybe he's maxed out. But again, he's going to be right around. I think Kyle Connor surpasses Shifley at this point. I think Shifley's more of that two-way player, so you're going to get fewer points, but a better overall player when you're talking about a team and making the playoffs. But Velarde rounds out that top line. So again, a great first line, but then you go to the second line. Ehlers, love Ehlers. He's super fast, super talented, shoot first kind of guy. Uh, Stinkov, I think I butchered the name. But it's the second line center, like Lowry. He's a shutdown. Adam Lowry, the captain, he's a shutdown, but he's back on line 3 now. It just, I'm Cole Perfetti. He just signed. It was a 2-year deal. He was a UFA no, I'm sorry, an RFA, restricted free agent. They picked him up for 3.25 a year. He's 38 points in 71 games. Could be somebody to watch, but really it's just kind of like I said, that second line is just kind of a plain Jane to me, with the exception of Ehlers. I think Ehlers is your only kind of standout there. So they're just too top heavy, I think, to make a real difference. Back on the blue line, you've got an absolute offensive wizard with Josh Morrissey, but then it really kind of falls off. I mean, Neil Pionk, he's kind of that always out there free agent guy, not in a deep league, not in our league. I mean, he was drafted, middle of the road, but some of your scoring leagues, that might be a guy you can pick up on the free agent wire. But outside of those two, no real standouts defensively, at least from a fantasy perspective. I don't have again, the biggest question, again, I'll go back to it, that 5-man defensive system that they seem to have perfected is a little bit in question. We'll see what we get with the new coach. And then the other thing too is just a Hellebuck with he's got at least start 60 games. I think.
Has to.
Is he a 65 game starter? I don't know. That's a lot of NHL games. That's a lot of shots. That's a lot of wear and tear. Those knees, everything else. So I don't know what the stat line. That would be the only bet that I would maybe take a look at if. And I didn't see anything on DraftKings for Hellebuck, or at least nothing that caught my eye. But and that can change. Obviously, we're technically 10 days away. They go over to, I think they're playing in the Czech Republic that first game, the Buffalo, New Jersey game. But as we ramp up to that date, there might be some more goalie futures or those types of things. So keep an eye out for that. I've got him missing the playoffs. Last year was an anomaly. I don't see him as a playoff team this year. So again, I don't know or have it off top of mind what the points over under, but
Yep, I've got that right now. So
we
to
can
make
look
the
at that.
playoffs on FanDuel, if you think they're going to make the playoffs, it's minus 172. It's actually plus 134 if you say no on the playoffs. So
I'm taking that.
that's not a bad little bet if you want to go plus money on them to not make
Whoa.
the playoffs at plus 134. Over under for points for them right now is sitting at 94.5. The under is where the money's at right now. The over is where the money's at right now. It's minus 122 for the over. The under is minus 104 at 94.5 points for them. A couple other random ones. Kyle Connor, 40 plus goals as plus 190 right now, if you think he'll get 40 goals this season. And then to win the Vezina, Hellebuck is tied with Swayman and Shesterkin at plus 600 as the top three guys to win the Vezina. Okay. So he'd obviously, if they don't make the playoffs, he's going to have a heck of a year to get the Vezina. He was dominant last year. I know I got him in our league where we only had to start one goalie, and I picked him decently early, not too early, but I wanted to make sure I had a guy that was going to get in there. We don't count losses for negative points in our league, just goals against. And we count a decent amount of points for saves. So I was like, hey, he's going to take a lot of shots, going to get it there. Let's going to see what happened. But I think you're right. I like this Winnipeg team, but it's like I just don't know if they've got enough pieces in a pretty tough division.
Yeah.
All right, fellas, we're coming down to the last 10, 15 minutes of the show. Toast, let's wrap up these last couple teams for us.
Yep, Chicago Blackhawks. Hey, here comes the Hawks, the mighty Blackhawks. Okay, never mind. They're not going to be really, really mighty this year. Okay, but again, we're in the rebuild. So they're a bottom 10 team in fantasy hockey. They were last in a Central. They'll probably end up around there again, which is fine. You can get Bedard as a top 35 to 45 players in most drafts. And if you can get him in there, you should do it because everything's going to go through him. This guy's the real deal. He is a generational talent. There's no doubt about it. 61 points in 68 games as a rookie with zero, and I say zero help last year. It is amazing he got that many. The Hawks actually had another great draft with a number 2 pick overall, Artem Lushunov. I would say if you can get Bedard somewhere between 35 and 45 overall, you're actually winning, and you're winning big. This is a guy that's probably going to get over 40 goals this year. He's going to be over 80 points with, again, a better supporting cast, but still not anywhere close to being elite. Sneaky picks. Taylor Hall. Most people forget that Taylor Hall is on the Blackhawks. Why? Because they signed him last year. He played only 9 games, out for the season. In those 9 games, I think he had 8 or 9 points. Okay, so it's gonna be health with Taylor Hall. Hall will actually play with Bedard. If he doesn't play on the same line, he'll obviously be on the power play with him as well. But if he could be with Bedard, and let's just say he's healthy for even 75 to 77 games, which is a big if, he could probably score close to 30 goals. I've read many articles where they said that's his goal, is to score that many goals or close to it. And he's definitely capable. He's a past Hart Trophy winner. That's well in the past, okay? Categories deep dive. Alec Martinez. He's a block machine. All right. So if you're actually looking for categories, you're looking for a good block guy, Alec Martinez will actually lead the league or close to it in blocks this season. He's going to do it. Late round streamers, Khrushchev. If Khrushchev, he's only 24 years old. Last year, again, on a bad team last year, he actually was tied to the hip at Bedard. They had great chemistry together. This year, he's projected for close to 57 to 60 points and on an 80 game pace. That's really, really good for a 24-year-old and a team that's still rebuilding. And again, great chemistry with Connor Bedard. It would not shock me at all in the event that they end up playing together on the same line. Right now, they don't have that. They have Hall, they have Bedard, they got Bertuzzi. But again, they're going to shuffle the lineup with as young as that lineup is. But they're going to be much, much better as a team last year. It's the only way to go, but is up, right? A great fantasy playoff schedule. So top 5 to 7 in the league, I would actually say for weeks 22 to 24. Keep that in mind. The best bets here, over 82.5 points for Bedard at minus 115 if he is healthy. And again, last year's jaw, when he fractured a jaw, that's a freak thing, okay? This guy has legs like the size of tree trunks. He's a strong guy. At 18 years old, he's very, very strong. He actually set some combine records, I believe, and I forget exactly which lifts and what maybe not that he actually set a record in, but nevertheless, he's a strong guy. And at 40 goals, which is going to happen in the event that he ends up playing even close to 82 games, plus 190. All right, remember that one, plus 190 for Bedard over 40 goals. If he is healthy, and he should be, again, last year, a freak thing, that should happen.
Yeah, so the points right now are sitting at 74.5. Minus 122 on the over. The under is minus 104. So you actually get a better number on the under, which I like as well. Obviously, the playoffs bet, you do not want to take this. They don't make the playoffs as minus 1,600. You're not going to take that. Yes, to make the playoffs 750 plus 750. Yeah, I think you're just throwing your money away there. To win the divisions plus 11,000. So that's a hell no.
Let's go.
On that one. To win
Put a buck on it.
I did pull up some player specials. So if you're on FanDuel, they do have it's called Star Specials. A couple of the big time names. Got a few for Bedard. Real long shots here, but I want to see what you guys thought. Connor Bedard record to record one hat trick in the first 10 games of the year, plus 750. Bernard scores 1 point in each of the first 10 games of the year, plus 2,000.
No.
Connor Bedard to record 20 plus points in his first 10 games is plus 2,500. And Bedard to score 1 goal in each of his first 5 games is plus 7,000. And Connor Bedard to record 100 plus regular season points is plus 1,300. So obviously, like I said,
put $5 on every one of them, and you're not going to win anything.
Long shots on those. Yeah. Long shots. Toast says if you just want to burn $20. Go right ahead and
put a buck on it.
Yeah. Each on those ones. But I thought those were pretty interesting that they had those for Bedard under the Star Specials. As I was like, yeah, those are quite the long shots on those ones. I think he's going to score points, like you said, Toast. The biggest issue for him is this anybody else on this team going to be able to generate enough points for him to get a decent amount of assists, to get a decent amount of total points on the year? But we saw when he was healthy last year, man, for a guy that his age, he was impressive.
Well, with the additions of actually Bertuzzi, great two-way player. I'm sorry, Teravainen, great two-way player. Bertuzzi actually be on that line there as well. And Ilya Mikheyev as well, if he can actually have a resurgence when we actually done over in Vancouver. And then they really got better on the blue line as well with guys that have actually won cup like Martinez as well. And TJ Brody actually coming over from Toronto. I know he's actually played in Toronto. They're a better team. There's no doubt about that. Yes. And you got to think of Bedard. If he would have played all 82 last year, he would have actually been right around the 70-point mark. 82 point. I mean, come on. The over on the points for him should be easy. Not even hard at all, man. And again, so that's almost a given in my opinion. Again, freak injury last year. Freak injury.
So, the question is here: do we want to go with the Wild and save the worst for last, and we can skip right through the
Sure.
Blues at the end here.
Yeah,
I know how you guys are. So we got about 5 minutes left in here. Let's jump in
rapid
and
fire,
the last
JT.
two. Let's jump in the last two here.
Yep, rapid fire. Minnesota Wild, they're a playoff team. All right. You actually want to go ahead and stack Kaprizov and Boldy if you can. Boldy had 61 points in 67 games last year. Love the fact that in 67, or I'm sorry, projected for that many games, but he's already projected. He shoots a puck a ton. All right. For a 22-year-old, shoots a puck an absolute ton. Sneaky pick, Ryan Hartman. He's projected right now to be on the top line with Kaprizov and Zuccarello. I mean, Ryan Hartman's going to go undrafted in most leagues this year. Get on Ryan Hartman late, especially for a streamer. Stream for the first 2-3 weeks. See if he ends up catching fire. You've seen a guy 2 years ago. He showed his ass for a little bit. That was kind of fun. Even Patrick Kane's like, "Who are you, man?" They were past teammates. He's like, "I don't even know who you are." Categories deep dive. Joel Eriksson Ek does everything: goals, assists, shots on goal, hits, face-off wins. They got him projected for over 700 face-off wins this year. That's insane, man. Late round streamers, Brock Faber. I know it's kind of crazy saying because I think Aaron was he second last year in Calder in voting.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But he's young. He's so unbelievably young. We still actually see him drop a lot in draft because he's a power play quarterback. He's offense first. He's not going to actually fill up the stat sheet with the hits and blocks or whatnot. But he's on a really, really good power play for that team. Their fantasy playoff schedule, a top 10 in the league. They got awesome weeks 23 and 24. Tons of off nights. Best bets, I love Kaprizov, over 50 goals at plus 180 in his first 3 seasons in the league, 47, 40, and 46. All right. And that has been a lot with Zuccarello actually hurt. Hartman's actually missed some time as well. If they can actually stay healthy, that group, and I think they're better with Faber as well. I love Kaprizov get over the 50 goal mark. At plus 180, I was shocked. I figured that would actually be right around plus money or maybe even minus 110.
Yeah, for this team right now, it's sitting at 94.5 points. Over is minus 150.
Go over.
Under is minus 11. I like the over there as well. Obviously, to win the division, a little bit of a long shot as they're the 6th place team in the division. They're at plus 750 to win the division. Making the playoffs minus 530 is a yes. And no plus 360s. You figure they're probably going to be in. I like the over 94.5, especially if you think they're a playoff team. And then, Aaron, do you get the beautiful duty of taking the St. Louis Blues to finish it off here?
Oh, we all love the Blues. We just love them.
Yeah. There's a Blues podcast. What are you talking about? No, the Blues stink. No.
I love it. Keep going, Aaron. You're doing great.
They'll miss the playoffs. So let's start with the negative and see how much I can pile on. No, actually, instead of a complete rebuild like the Hawks have done, where they've they stripped it down to the studs. Blues have kind of done a rolling rebuild. So to their credit, they've gotten younger, but they're right around that 90-point mark. So that's right at the cusp of a playoff team. They just missed the playoffs last year. They are going to miss the playoffs this year. Sorry, Daler, but not a whole lot of key departures. And I'd say the biggest, outside of the Nashville Predators, probably the biggest headline of the off season this year was when they snaked Holloway and Broberg from the Edmonton Oilers. You just don't see those offer sheets going out to these restricted free agent guys. I'd forgotten about the rule because it hasn't been done forever, but leave it to the Blues to undercut somebody just to kind of get ahead. And good for Armstrong. I mean, he's trying to win. That's what your job is to do, is to win. But holy cow, what a precedent! It might open the door to that. We might see that a little bit more. Good for us as a fan, maybe bad for teams when we get into cap hell again, which the Blackhawks will eventually get to. Then we're going to be mad that this guy kind of kicked us off. So anyway, the other thing to keep an eye on this year, I think with the addition of Holloway, we're going to have Dvorsky may not make the team, but he's one of those Russians that are a lot of fun to watch. I hope he makes the team. He'll be fun to watch. Best bet I got out there for Kyrou. He's right around a 30-goal guy. I had found a DraftKings bet for him, but over 31.5 goals. Right now it's at minus 110, but it's something you might want to look at.
And he
I think
came
he's
on
one
right
those
at the end of the
guys.
year, right, Aaron? Like
He
he
did.
really
He
played
had
some
a
inspired hockey. Yeah.
horrible start to begin with when he was under Chief, when
Yeah.
when he was coach, and Berube, now in Toronto, but when they just didn't, and then he took off when Berube left. So I like that. Real quick, just gonna kind of reiterate, we've already talked about him, but so that's your kind of wrap on the Blues. But um, sleeper picks, Toast, you mentioned him, Taylor Hall, Maverick Bork on the Dallas Stars, and Zuccarello, who you mentioned,
Yeah.
Eriksson Ek. Zuccarello is going to be right there. His shot percentage, 6.9% last year.
He don't shoot
Nobody
the
shoots
puck
that.
much. Yeah.
He does not shoot the puck, and when he did, he shot it like shit. So
Yeah.
you're not going to shoot that. He's an assist pass first guy, so he could be one of those sneaky guys. Bust alert, right with the St. Louis Blues. I think Jake Neighbors. I'm high on. He's supposedly a great guy. Might get one of the letters at some point, but he was shooting it around a 20%, and he got 27 goals. Nobody maintains a 20%, especially somebody on this team. Gustav Nyquist last year, 75 points. I think he kind of falls off.
Yeah.
He's not going to get anywhere near that. Don't waste a pick on him. Last thing I'll leave it within our central, the return on investments. So for those of you in those salary cap, those dynasty salary cap leagues, you already mentioned him, Hartman from Minnesota. He's on a $4 million contract. His return on investment's about 1.04 points per dollar spent.
Wow. Nice.
Minnesota's going to make the playoffs. We all agree on this. They're going to be really good. They're going to bounce back. Tommy Novak in Nashville. He's slated to be the either line 1 or line 2 center. $3.5 million. He's getting you a 0.9 points per dollar. But he's potentially second line center on an offensive first team, restructured team, and all they're going to do is pump pucks in the net. So last one, you've already mentioned him, Philip Kurashev, 1.23 points per dollar spent on his $2.25 million contract. And he's either going to be skating with Tavo or he's going to be skating with Bedsy. And the dude's going to be a very, very good return on that lower dollar amount, that $2.25 million contract. So that's what I got on those.
Nice.
All right. That's going to do it for us here on Around the Ice Central Division Breakdown. If you missed any of the other breakdowns, go ahead and go back and watch those. Also, if you're interested in catching our home dynasty draft, we broke it down last week. Go back and listen to that. Look at kind of where guys went and did all that. We appreciate it. If you're into college football, stick around for the college football betting show on the Stew with JT Brew next year on Fanciest Frames. We'll check you guys next time. Thanks for watching.
See you guys.